Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing wonderful out there this morning and having a great start to your day and a great beginning to your week out there. Got you some updated information on what's going on with Beryl. We'll talk on how it's doing right now, as this is a very impressive looking Category 1 hurricane that made landfall just a couple hours ago along the Texas coastline. We'll speak on that, then we'll talk about the impacts to come, as this is going to rapidly head north and affect all of eastern Texas, even western Louisiana, all the way up into Arkansas, and eventually get all the way up into the southern sections of the Midwest, the Ohio Valley. But we're really going to focus in on the next 24 to 36 hours. So we'll have timestamps up in the video after we do all that. Of course, we'll speak on the rest of the country as far as your weather for your Monday expected. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Thank y'all for trusting me as a weather source to get your information from. It means the world, and I definitely appreciate y'all so much, as the discussions on hurricane, tropical storm Beryl are coming to an end. We still got a couple more days of impact expected across sections of the country now. So even though this is going to rapidly weaken, this is going to bring a legit tornado threat, I think, over the next couple of days, especially for today. And we're going to really talk on that here in a second for you folks. So if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. And praying for you folks in Texas right now. Hopefully, as the sun comes up, as this thing pulls on out, we find out that the damage wasn't as bad as I guess it could have been. But I'm telling you, this was definitely a strengthening hurricane as it approached the coastline to Texas. So with all that being said, let's get rocking and rolling. So this is Hurricane Beryl, still technically a hurricane right now, but by the time we get to the next update or two, this will get downgraded to a tropical storm just due to land interaction and the weakening of this tropical system. But listen, as far as radar wise, this is probably one of the most impressive looking Category 1 hurricanes that I've ever seen as far as looking at it on radar. So this is obviously Hurricane Beryl with radar here, and it's Houston getting hit very hard with these banding features. I mean, you guys are basically in like the outer eye wall. The eye right here, you see how there's a little bit of a clearing that will get closed off here in the coming hours because it is weakening. But when it made landfall, I mean, there was a legit clearing. I mean, there was some storm chasers in this clearing. There was a calming. Some of you folks might know of the Hurricane Man. His name is Josh. He's penetrated many eye walls in his career of chasing hurricanes. He pretty much only chases hurricanes, but he was right in the middle of this, and I was waking up to some of his video, and it was just a legit calming. I mean, it was like the eye of a stronger hurricane. So this thing is really hitting Galveston very hard up to Houston. There was a tornado warning around Houston this morning, and we're probably going to get multiple tornado warnings. This is what we call the dirty side. We're going to zoom out a little bit. The dirty side of these tropical systems is right into here. This is the area that normally produces the highest winds. This is the area that typically produces the highest threat for a tornado. A lot of times, this is where your most precipitation rainfall is. And this entire area is basically going to go right through eastern Texas today and areas of western Louisiana. So that will become the dominant topic as far as Beryl as we move over the next several hours. But this thing, like I said, even some storm chasers that are chasing this right now, they're in this right now, especially, a couple hours ago, were saying that this was the strongest Category 1 hurricane that they've ever chased. And, we mentioned this over the last couple of days, that this was going to try to take a shot at rapid intensification right before landfall. And it really did get its act together right before landfall. A couple hours before landfall, it closed off its eye and really began to strengthen. It just ran out of time. Thank goodness it did, because I think that this would have really amped up until like a Category 2, Category 3 hurricane if it had like maybe 12 to 18 more hours over water. So let's get back off this and let's take a look at the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Still technically an 80-mile-per-hour hurricane, but guys, I mean, this will get downgraded to a tropical storm here in the coming hours. By the time we're at 2 p.m. this afternoon, 65-mile-per-hour tropical storm. By the time we're like overnight tonight, like after midnight tonight, this is a 40-mile-per-hour tropical storm. So still forecast to be a tropical storm by the time this is in northeastern sections of Texas and northwestern sections of Louisiana. Okay, could still be a low-grade tropical storm overnight, rumbling through southwestern Arkansas, but then it does weaken into a depression and then eventually a remnant low as it surges through the Boot Hill, Missouri, and then makes it all the way. I mean, whatever's left over the center of the storm could go right over like Indianapolis, and eventually it'll get all the way to Lake Erie. By the time we get to kind of the later half of the week, it could bring some weather into like southern Ontario. So that's pretty wild to think about. Not unheard of. But, you know, when these things get picked up by cold fronts and a trough, I mean, they could really get some forward speed to it. So we expect the leftovers of Beryl to really pick up some forward speed, the fastest that's ever went in its life. It'll happen over land over the next couple days. But, you know, be on alert if you live in eastern Texas, western Louisiana, because we got some impacts on the way. So this is the latest information. Obviously, Beryl's in the process of weakening right now, which we expect with land interaction. But as far as the impacts on the way for the rest of eastern Texas, Louisiana, even showing southwestern Arkansas, but we'll show more of Arkansas here in a second. So this is the HRRR model. This is kind of a depiction of what potentially could happen over the next several hours. So we'll start off this morning. As we continue to get into later in the morning, we'll start to, let's take it all the way to about midday. Kind of lunchtime to around 1 p.m. Central Time. We start to get some outer bands that work their way into the western sections of Louisiana. Shreveport will start to get some nasty weather. And guys, there's a legit tornado risk in this area. I'll talk about it here in a second, but there's a 10% risk of a tornado right in here. But all these little outer band features here, you see these kind of pockets of yellows, orange, and reds. There could be embedded tornadoes. The leftovers of the center of Beryl's right here. And there's that nasty east, right, northeast quadrant of Beryl right into here. Watch out, like Lufkin up to Shreveport. I mean, even Tyler, Texas, especially points east. All right, we get deeper into the afternoon. This is around 5 o'clock. You see this feeder band right here, this band? These are the features you really want to watch out for a legit tornado threat. On the right side of these tropical systems, we basically have a low-level jet that's carried by this system. The system creates its own low-level jet. The winds just above the surface are howling. That mixed with the fact that this is bringing obviously a tropical moisture, and then we got an uppercut in the mid-levels of dry air wrapping around this system. So this has a dry air punch in the mid-levels. This does nothing but increase the tornado threat. So a legit tornado risk in this area today. So we continue to move this forward. We're going to get kind of embedded in the leftovers of the center of the storm. You're going to be getting tropical storm force wind gusts, 40, 50, maybe as high as 60 mile per hour wind gusts, kind of embedded in kind of the right side of what's left over of Beryl's kind of eye wall, if you will, even though it's not technically that. So if you live in like northeastern Texas in this region, very gusty winds overnight, or really later this evening, I would say, just later this evening. And of course, you want to watch these feeder bands going through western, central Louisiana. They could wrap all the way down into Lake Charles later tonight. And then, Mary up here in northeast Texas, it's definitely going to get quite breezy. Some higher end wind gusts are possible. But eventually, as we're waking up tomorrow morning, I think as the sun's coming up tomorrow morning, it'll still be breezy. But I think this fully gets up into Arkansas and then other states to your northeast. But, I mean, you're definitely going to be dealing with some nasty weather in western Louisiana, eastern Texas, southwestern Arkansas throughout the entire day. Things might be calm now, but that'll change very quickly as we move over the next several hours. But wind speeds off the HRRR model, this might be a little bit overdone, but I think in some cases it's right on. Houston will continue to get very strong wind gusts like you're getting right now. But you can see kind of two different features. You see this right here. This is really what's being carried by the center of the storm that will still kind of pack some strong wind gusts. The potential's there for 40, 50, maybe as high as 60 mile per hour wind gusts throughout this entire corridor in eastern Texas. And then we kind of see this kind of area right into here. These are kind of the feeder bands that are going to produce some very strong winds too. So, I mean, even into like western Louisiana, we could definitely get some 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, 45 mile per hour wind gusts, maybe even higher with some of these banding features. But this entire area right here of eastern Texas is going to get slammed. And if I'm leaving out areas like in Dallas-Fort Worth, you guys are definitely going to get some breezy conditions. But the worst of your weather is going to be about 3 or 4 hours east of you. So between now and the next 18 hours, very strong winds in eastern Texas. Expect that. Some down trees, saturated soils. This is going to allow for, like I said, for those trees to come down, some power outages going to be expected in this region. Maybe hopefully some of you folks got off work or whatever it may be. But definitely just a day just to stay inside, just to kind of watch your surroundings. And definitely a weakening tropical system, but this will still pack a punch through this region. You talk about the tornado risk. There is an enhanced risk for Shreveport surrounding regions. This does ooze up into southwestern Arkansas and extreme eastern sections of eastern Texas. So this is basically driven off the tornado threat, and really the tornado threat only. I mean, you're going to get some gusty winds also, but you see this yellow area, that is a 10% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Shreveport, you're right in the heart of this. In the brown area, that's a 5% risk of a tornado. This does include Houston, over the Lake Charles. So yeah, 2% risk in Alexandria, Monroe down to Lafayette. But there's a legit tornado risk right in here today. Please be aware of this. If you live in the northwest corner of Louisiana, eastern Texas, and then southwestern Arkansas, 10% risk of a tornado. And if you look at the updraft Felicity swath, it's highlighted right in those areas. You see the more highlighted colors in like yellow, orange, but this could very well be in eastern Texas. But this is just the one model run. Here we can look at this run and see how different it is. Not a whole lot different. You're getting these little slashes right in here. This just means, well, we could have some rotating updrafts, which means we could have some tornadoes. Typically, you don't get super strong tornadoes with kind of a tropical tornado threat, but you can get several tornadoes. And, even if it's just an EF0, EF1, maybe low end EF2, they come down, do a lot of damage, and then kind of lift back up. So be aware, if your area gets under a tornado warning during this entire event, there's a good chance it's going to be rain wrapped and very hard to see, especially if the tornado threat persists as this gets into the overnight hours into Arkansas. So just be aware of that. The chance of excessive rainfall is at a 40% chance here throughout eastern Texas, all the way into also, southeastern portions of Oklahoma, northwestern areas of Arkansas. The yellow area, that's a 15% risk. And as far as how much rain could fall, eastern Texas, a swath of 5 to 6, maybe as much as 7 inches of rain in this entire area. You're going to get a lot of rain fast. And I mean, even southern, western Louisiana, a couple inches of rain is possible. But just be aware of all this rain on the way for you folks. Now, we take a look at Arkansas. We even cover a little bit on eastern Oklahoma, southern Missouri, western Tennessee, and even areas of Mississippi all the way up to southern Illinois. And then we'll kind of stop right here just because some things could tweak with this. So this is kind of more inside the next 24 to 36 hours. But, a pretty quiet day today in Arkansas. But things will start to go downhill as we start to get into southwestern areas of Arkansas. We'll start to get a lot of tropical moisture that moves in. By the time we get into about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, Little Rock, Hot Springs, many areas will start to get a lot of tropical moisture, shower and storm activity. The rain will add up fast. And by the time we're getting to this evening, we're starting to get a push of moisture all the way up into southern sections of Missouri. We get some nasty storms all the way up here in the southern areas of Illinois. I don't think these will produce much of a tornado threat just because that low-level wind field is way down here on the east side of what's left over of this low pressure. But, it's raining pretty heavily in southeastern areas of Oklahoma. By the time we start to get into, late this evening, 10 p.m., you got to start watching out for these feeder band kind of features down here in southern Arkansas, Texarkana area right here where Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas kind of all kind of come together in this region here. There will be some embedded tornadoes in some of these bands. This is around 10 p.m. And then heavy rain really begins to take over a good chunk of the state of Arkansas, especially if you live in Jonesboro to Little Rock to southwestern Arkansas, points north and northwest and west. This is where most of the rainfall will happen. Now, Memphis, you guys could get some rain. Could even get a feeder band kind of late, kind of in the wee hours of the morning, tomorrow morning, all the way into Jackson, Mississippi. It's very, very possible. But this continues. We're waking up tomorrow morning with the leftovers of the system. Whatever's left over the system could move right over Little Rock tomorrow morning. Obviously, you're not going to get like an eye or anything like that. It's not going to be that eventful. Just some breezy conditions, some gusty winds. But then I have to watch for a tornado threat tomorrow in the Boot Hill, Missouri, areas of western Kentucky, maybe even southern Indiana, southern Illinois. Kind of have an opportunity with the leftovers of this to kind of produce maybe a tornado risk. As of now, just a 2% risk, but that could change. Winds over the next, this is pretty much the next 36 hours. The winds are going to pick up overnight in Arkansas. I mean, even southeastern Oklahoma, southern Missouri. I mean, all the way up the Mississippi Delta, too. I mean, 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts are possible. But, you start to get into this kind of corridor right here in Arkansas. I'm going to draw. This is kind of where I would say the meat of whatever's left over a Beryl will kind of go through. So you'll have an opportunity to get some 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts. This could still be kind of a low-grade tropical storm by the time it gets to this portion of Arkansas, at least a tropical depression. So, Little Rock, little bit up the road to your north and northwest and west, southwestern Arkansas, certainly could get some very strong wind gusts with this, especially with any kind of stronger banding features that kind of rumble through this area. But, I mean, really the swath of the heaviest rain is going to go right through the areas I mentioned in Arkansas. But, I mean, southern Missouri to Boot Hill, Missouri, all the way up here into the southern half of Illinois. This is between now and Wednesday evening. Just a swath of 4 to 5 inches of rain through Arkansas. It lessens a little bit once you get into Missouri. But this is all moisture from the leftovers of Beryl. So pretty impressive stuff. And then you look at the updraft Felicity swath. This is kind of what happens later this afternoon to this evening. You see the elevated kind of updrafts right in here, and the yellows and the oranges. This indicates where we can have some rotating updrafts. And then it kind of does it again up into this region. See up here? This is more so what happens tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon. You want to watch for maybe an increase from a 2 to a 5% risk of a tornado for tomorrow up here in this area, the Boot Hill, western Kentucky, southern Illinois, all the way in Indiana also, maybe even western areas of Tennessee late tonight. So that's the latest update on Beryl. Beryl's made landfall. Like I said, I appreciate you guys tuning in as we followed along. And there it is right now, spinning along the Texas coastline as it continues to move north. It might already start to be heading north-northeast now. Yeah, please take this serious if you live in all of eastern Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. We could have a mini tornado outbreak from this. This happens a lot with these tropical systems. But as far as what else is happening, we're getting a lot of rain and shower and storm activity in the panhandle of Texas, eastern New Mexico. In fact, we got a flash flood warning. We're already getting a lot of moisture up here, shower and storm activity in Missouri. This really isn't because of this hurricane, but mainly because of this upper trough digging down to the country, which is what's picking up Beryl. And then we got some moisture across the Great Lakes region, the upper Midwest. So this is what's going on right now as far as watches, warnings, and advisories. See if anything's changed. Has not. You can see where Beryl's going to go right through. You see these flood watches up in the green, all the way up through eastern Texas, southeastern Oklahoma, Arkansas, southern Missouri, all the way into areas of southern Illinois, a few counties in Indiana, including Evansville. And then the orange, these are heat advisories, very hot across the deep south, very hot day across the southern New England region into the mid-Atlantic, New Jersey, Delmarva, very hot day expected. Tropical storm warnings well inland into Texas. You see this kind of red color in here. These are tropical storm warnings. Be aware of that. And it's going to be brutally hot. Some records could be broke out west. I think there was an all-time high record broken in Las Vegas yesterday. Can't remember how hot it got. 117, 120, something like that. Brutally hot conditions out here that's kind of not being talked about as much just because we've had Beryl ongoing, but it continues to be hot. You got excessive heat warnings, heat advisories, excessive heat watches scattered about as a tall ridge continues to dominate your pattern out west. As far as excessive rainfall, in the red area, that's a 40% chance of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location. The yellow is a 15% risk of that, and this is because of Beryl moving in. And then the shot at severe weather, we've already talked about this, but there is an enhanced risk right over Shreveport and surrounding areas, slight risk around that, driven off the tornado threat. And then you got the marginal risk extending from the Gulf Coast line all the way up into southern Illinois. We do have another individual marginal risk down here in southwestern Texas, including like Fort Stockton, we could get some strong to severe storms. But a big area of the country has at least a shot at some storms today. So yeah, southeast. You obviously see the eyesore Beryl over here, but we've kind of already broke down Beryl. So kind of speak on the rest of the southeast. Here's these pop-up showers and storms across Georgia, really the southern half of Georgia, southern Alabama, across Florida, the coastal sections of the Carolinas. I don't think in the Carolinas it'll be as widespread today, or Georgia, just more so pop-up activity. But don't worry, if you missed out on the rain the last couple of days, we'll have more opportunities for it over the next few days throughout really the rest of the work week. But in this entire area right here, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, up to Virginia, Florida, more so just pop-up activity. Now, you'll have other areas that have more of a kind of more concentrated, heavier chance, stronger chance of stronger to severe storms, kind of in areas of like northern Florida. But outside of that, just pop-up activity really expected all the way through tomorrow morning. So whoever gets some of these tropical downpours, they could produce flooding just because there's so much moisture in the atmosphere right now, especially with a strong southwesterly flow rumbling through the area. But today in the northeast, you're going to be begging for some rain in the mid-Atlantic, the Delmarva. We could get some pop-up downpours across this area, but I wouldn't expect much. Some strong to severe storms are possible in the lower Michigan area, as you can see in this region. Could get some storms in Michigan today. Really anywhere in Michigan is very possible. Some downpours possible down here. And along the coastal regions, the down east areas in Maine. We'll wake up tomorrow morning to maybe some scattered shower activity throughout New York. Outside of that, it's a pretty quiet weather day in the northeast. South central U.S., totally different story. We've already broke down Hurricane Beryl as it weakens into a tropical storm. So if you skipped ahead to the south central frame looking for an update on Beryl, it's right at the beginning of the video. I have timestamps up for areas of Texas, Louisiana, and Arkansas, and Oklahoma, and Missouri. But we'll continue to watch this. Please be aware of this tornado threat, gusty winds with the leftovers of Beryl throughout the next 24 hours. Anybody else, we could get some strong to severe storms in southwestern Texas that could pack a punch, maybe some hail that's possible with these, and then some gusty winds. And yeah, I mean, outside of that, pop-up showers and storms in the panhandle of Texas could get going. But the main story is obviously the leftovers of Beryl as it continues to move north and then northeast through areas of the southern plains. So the north central U.S. dealing with a little activity this morning. Then we're going to get some pop-up showers and storms in northern Wisconsin. The UP and Michigan could get some stormy conditions today. Really anywhere, honestly. And these will kind of continue to develop, surge through the upper Midwest. The Great Lakes region could get some storms popping up in southern Minnesota, northern Iowa later today. We could get some tropical downpours as far north as Chicago later this evening. And all these will kind of move through and then they'll pretty much be done with. And we have to watch out as Beryl kind of starts to enter the picture from the south. Now the western U.S., it's pretty quiet out here. We could get some more strong to severe storms that surge south through northern New Mexico this afternoon. But everybody else is quiet. Like I said, this is a ridge-dominated pattern, very hot, brutally hot conditions out west. And speaking of those temperatures, more just kind of summer-like kind of conditions out here, I would say. But I want to mention very, very humid conditions in this entire region right here. Okay, a little bit more humid than average. And that's because you got Beryl right here. Beryl's going to move through this entire region right in here. And as it does, it's going to surge a lot of humid air, a southwesterly flow right through this area. So even though in this kind of area that I just drew for you guys, might not get a whole lot of impacts for Beryl, it's going to bring a very moist air mass over what's already a very hot air mass across the southeast. So expect the humidity levels across this entire area right here to be pretty much unbearable this week. The only thing that we can hope for is that the actual air temperatures aren't that bad, but hot, soupy air expected for the southeast pretty much all week as Beryl moves kind of overhead, if you will. So temperatures out west, I mean, we're going to break records. It's going to be pretty hot. I mean, we're going to hit into the low 100s, maybe in the lower elevations of Washington, maybe even Oregon. Very, very high conditions for the immediate western states. The Rockies, The high plains, not as bad, but brutally bad across the west. So definitely take the precautions needed. So that's all I got. If it seemed kind of messy in this video, probably because it was. I'm just a little drowsy. I'll be honest. I'm ready to get back to a normal flow of things this week. I tell you, Beryl was a nice warm up as far as talking about the tropics, and just want to thank y'all for following along. It's been awesome. I can tell you this week there probably won't be really any evening videos. Last week it really took up a lot of my time. I mean, there was some nights where I would come home, get home from work, and eat dinner, and then I would hop on here at about 6 o'clock, and I wouldn't get off until about 7:38. And if you folks know, I go to bed at about 8:30, so that would only leave me about 30 to 45 minutes to hang out with my family. And that's just how it is when you're invested into this. And I know that one day, God willing, hopefully I can do it full time, and it doesn't take up as much time, in the evenings as it does now, because I do work a full-time 40-hour job. So, but thank y'all for the support. Like I said, will not be many evening videos this week. In fact, there might not be any. Just taking a break. So we'll continue to pump out the morning information. If something significant comes up, of course, we will get you an evening video. But yeah, stay tuned for later on this week. I'm probably going to do like a little personal video, just, talking to you guys, thanking you guys, going over what happened over the last couple weeks with the channel and all that good stuff. Y'all have a wonderful Monday. Stay safe in Texas and surrounding states today. And I'll talk to you again soon.